If you've ever wondered why some sales teams stay consistent while others live and die by one-star rep, this episode will sharpen your thinking fast. O'Shaughnessey and Kevin Lawson break down the real difference between leaders who recruit talent and leaders who develop it, and how that choice shapes your sales management system. They connect sports coaching to repeatable sales processes, discipline, measurement, and a prospecting rhythm that drives predictable revenue generation. You'll also hear a practical challenge you can do immediately. Map your own sales success recipe so you can improve it, teach it, and stop relying on instinct alone.
Welcome back to Two Tall Guys Talking Sales. This is Sean. One of the things we talk about quite often in the Two Tall Guys Talking Sales is the ability for you to get help. And one of the reasons we think that you're listening to our podcast, and maybe you just like to listen to our voices and we don't put you to sleep as you're driving down the road, but we're hoping that the reason that you actually listen to us is that you get value, you learn something, maybe you get a new skill or a new thing to think about, or maybe you just argue with us over the radio. But one of the other ways that you can get help and get assistance, and we've talked about this several times, and we'd like to get a little bit more formal about introducing it, and that is a peer community mentor group. The ability to find people that are out there that will help you get better at your skills, or on the flip side, that you can help others to get better at their skills. One of the ways that we suggest doing that is to join in the B2B Sales Lab. B2B Sales Lab is set up so that you can ask questions, you can read what's already out there, and so you can learn some things, but you can ask the person that actually created that document or created that best practice and say, how does that work? Give me some help. Or maybe you can offer help for somebody else that's struggling on breaking into that account or closing that deal. So join the B2B Sales Lab. It's a great environment. You start off for free to see if it's worth your time and your money and your effort, but go to b2b-sales-lab.com. And it's B was the number B, the number 2 and letter B -sales-lab.com. Kevin, let's start this off because we talked about the idea, especially since we're getting very, very close to March Madness. We're getting close to the biggest sports events of the year, or we just got done with the Super Bowl, which is one of the biggest sports events of the year, but we're coming up on big races that are going to be happening. Talladega is happening. Augusta is happening for golf. We have the Olympics. So we have had just a ton of sports, and coaches become part of that process. Coaches are interesting because they coach differently and still achieve success. So my question to coaches out there, leaders out there, what kind of coach are you? Are you the great recruiter that hires fantastic people and that's how you get to the Final Four? Or are you I recruit regular people that have potential and I make them grow and I make them better and I coach them to be successful because they learn my process? Are you the kind of person that says, I adapt my process to the salesperson's skills, or do I change their skills to make my process work? Once again, there's no right answer here. Success is success. Kevin, what do you think? What kind of a manager are you?
So I am a manager who likes to take people who want to learn. I love the learning manager model because those people are so coachable and so invested in their own personal professional growth. The natural outcome is to make the businesses they work with and for better. So I am like the skills coach on the team, and the CEO retains the head coach position. So I like to think that I'm in the weight room and in the, on the training pitch and all those things for my soccer references. But I'm that guy who gets the people bought into why training is good and why systems are important, because, when it comes down to it, you have systems and controls. Systems is what we do, and the controls are how we measure how well we're doing it. So my whole take on coaching and leaning into people is taking them to a place they can't quite get to on their own. So if you're a power lifter, which I am not, but if you're a power lifter, it's how do you have that next PR and how do you keep increasing your PR performance? If you're a runner like me, it's how do you get faster in the each mile in the cadence. How do you stay more disciplined and consistent? I say distance, like each mile needs to be about the same time split. Just like I say, hey, prospecting needs to be consistent. It can't be something you do and sprint and then stop and then sprint and then stop. So I blend all these sports analogies to say, I'm the coach that wants consistent performance. I want to build the dynasty, not the one and done.
Very interesting. So as I think about my skills, and I have evolved over the years of doing this, I think I'm currently very similar to the current IU football coach who just got a lot of fame for doing really well this season. His name is Kurt Cignetti. And I'm going to bubble down kind of what I feel like he does to be successful in football. So he wasn't phenomenally successful for a long time. He was good, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't top tier. He became top tier when he went to IU, and now he had a platform that he could become top tier at. And he was top tier because he found people, salespeople in my vernacular, but he found athletes that were very, very good and kind of overlooked at their current place of business where they were actually working, where they were actually trying to perform. They were the pretty good player, really good player that was not getting a lot of accolades, or they were on a bad team, or they were on a team that didn't fit the way they play. And they went into the portal, which is, we can argue about the good and the bad of the portal, but they went into the portal and he recruited those guys that weren't doing great at their old place where they were playing. He put them into IU and he made a system that made all of them successful, and then created what could arguably say it was the best football team of the season. I mean, he won the championship, so you got to say that. But he won this championship in a strong way. I mean, they really did a great job. So I try to be like that. I try to find people that aren't all the way there, but they have the raw skills, but they aren't all the way there, even though they may have been a starter at their other place, but they were a B player with an A player capability inside. And I try to bring that A player out of the B player. I don't necessarily try to get the C to a B. I'm more of a B to an A kind of a coach. That's my philosophy, I think.
So it's interesting. And I'm hearing Billy Bean, the Oakland A's being woven in there. The goal, the how you win games is you get people on base. The goal for building a team that can perform at the highest collegiate level is you find all of the parts and pieces that individually make up the whole is greater than the sum, right? But it's that kind of experimentation where I think about how are you as a leader building your team out? And if you've never explored this, the B2B Sales Lab is a great way and great place to do that, because you have to sometimes experiment to figure out through not only analyzing where you are now, like you have to baseline some of this. And this is not stuff you necessarily may want to post on LinkedIn in a public forum about asking questions about this level of detail of change you might be introducing in your organization. So that peer-to-peer group allows you the trust to accelerate growth inside your organization. That's my little quick plug for B2B Sales Lab, because it's a value forward organization of people just like you who are trying to answer and solve the same problems alongside people who've done it before. So that notwithstanding, good place there. But the analogy I want to go back to, Sean, is also for the people who don't know what kind of coach they are or have never spent the time. Like you may have thought about the kind of salesperson you are. Maybe your strategy is to call high into organizations or call low. Maybe you're a founder of a SaaS product and your freemium to paid is your market entry strategy. So when we're thinking about a sales motion and a sales leadership motion, it's really important to understand how we show up to the team. Sean and I are fractionals, which means we go to a lot of businesses, we roll up our sleeves, and we do the work of getting the team ready for their next full-time leader. And that's a challenge in and of itself, because we have to quickly analyze and be the coach that they need. So that sometimes means we have to morph a little bit or adjust a little bit of our style to best fit the team. And that can be whether you're out there in listener land in a manufacturing sell the system in the program. Like you sell it once and they buy it monthly from here to eternity until somebody messes up a quality delivery. Or if you're selling a product that gets sold once and then has a renewal every year, where you sell it for a package where there's a useful life of an asset, think 7 years depreciation before you have to change out an asset. All of these different sales motions and sales people that show up to these types of jobs come with their own sets of challenges and opportunities. So As a coach, it's your job to figure out who you are and what your team needs. Now, if you're out there in listener land and you are a doer, meaning you're carrying a quota and a bag, you've got to figure out who's leading you. So it's equally as important for you to understand, hey, how do I respond well? Sean and I have a lot of fun offline conversations about our former leaders and how they show up and how we as sellers had to adopt and adapt our selling, reporting, note-taking, information sharing styles to best fit our managers, because everybody works for somebody. Just because Sean and I are fractional doesn't mean we don't have a boss. Every one of the companies we serve is led by someone. So we show up in service to them as well as the teams. So it becomes intensely important to know what kind of coach you are.
Totally agree. And I think I'm going to end it talking to those sellers as well, because let me put this to you in a lot of perspectives. And we've seen this. I have seen this, Kevin. I know you have seen this. The company that hired the best salesperson on their team and promoted them to be the manager. And the coaching to that new manager was just have the other salespeople do what you do, because you were the best salesperson we've had ever, last 2 or 3 years, whatever. Just continue doing that and teach everybody else to do what you do. The problem with that is a lot of salespeople don't understand how they are successful. So if you are a salesperson, you need to think about how you are successful. Now, that can come in 2 ways. You can also think about how you're not successful, how you're failing, but understand how you sell, understand how you are successful, because if the more you understand that I do this, and this is why I do this, I do that, and this is why I do that. So by understanding those steps, the steps that you take naturally that are just built into your DNA, but understanding that when I do this, the customer responds in this way, and then I react accordingly. When you start to understand those motions and those activities, then you can actually teach it to somebody else, which is, again, when we go to the B2B sales lab, that's a big deal because we're trying to help others. So when you say, this is how I would respond to that situation, and somebody says, why? Well, it's logical. You should have an answer to that question. Why do you do that? Why are you good at that? Why does that work for you and something else doesn't? So anyway, we're going to wrap it up. We're getting close to our time here. So we really appreciate you joining us. And, we look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 4:30. But we also look forward to seeing you on the B2B Sales Lab. Once again, b2b-sales-lab.com. You'll find it in the show notes as well. Thank you very much. Good luck this week.
That was one of those episodes that doesn't just talk about leadership. It forces you to look at how you actually coach and what that coaching produces. One idea that really landed was the peer group advantage. You can baseline what's happening in your team, pressure test your sales strategies, and refine your sales processes in a trusted room without turning your internal challenges into public LinkedIn content. It's a technique a lot of leaders skip, but it's powerful. Bring the real scenario, get multiple perspectives from people who've lived it, and leave with clearer messaging, tighter revenue management, and fewer blind spots. Of course, that advantage is to join the B2B Sales Lab at the b2b-sales-lab.com. Before you move on with your day, use the actionable item from this episode. Write down your personal sales success recipe in 5 to 7 steps and add the why behind each move. That matters because if you can't explain why your approach works, you can't replicate it, improve it, or teach it. So your revenue generation stays dependent on instinct and heroics. Do it today, while the examples are fresh, because tomorrow it'll get buried under meetings, proposals, and customer noise. And if you want help applying this to your world, whether it's sales management, building a stronger team, or driving more sales success, reach out to Sean or Kevin. Their contact info is in the show notes. You can also join the B2B Sales Lab, a community of salespeople and sales leaders focused on practical answers, proven resources, and real support to help you make quota. And you'll find the B2B Sales Lab URL right in the show notes. We'll be back with you next week, same time, ready to keep sharpening how you sell and how you lead. Happy selling!